Right, so last month I made a TikTok video about how $120,000 a year does not buy the sort of financial freedom it did in the early 2000s and in the 90s. The video went super viral, lots of questions, lots of comments. It even got picked up by the Daily Mail newspaper and they made an article for all the angry boomers to read. And the comments were just as predictable as you expected. A lot of people saying, oh, if he can't survive on that, it's probably because he's got budgeting issues. What is it he's spending it on? Let me clarify this. I went from making $50,000 a year to making over $150,000 a year in 2 years. On $50,000 a year in a capital city in this country, you're in debt every single week. Once you pay for rent, once you pay for groceries, if you have any financial emergencies, those are going straight on the credit card. You are running out of money. And I was running out of money on a weekly basis. It was getting worse. And I was speaking to my boss at the time and I was saying, buddy, just out of interest, like, how long you been doing this and how much do you make? I was working this corporate job. He'd been in the industry for over 30 years and he was making $120,000 a year. And I looked at that money and what that would mean for me after tax. And I was like, you know what? $120,000 a year gives me about $500 or $600 more a week in after-tax income. I'd be able to buy groceries. I'd be able to pay for rent. It would change my life, but it wouldn't be enough to get ahead in this country. It wouldn't be enough to be rich, to buy houses, private school education, overseas vacations, the life. Not enough, but it is enough to be financially comfortable. I looked at that going, I don't have 20 years to get there. I don't have 10 years in the corporate world to grind up to that income. I needed that today. And so I did. I changed industries. I changed jobs and I started making over $100,000 a year. And it did change my life. When I was on $50,000 a year, I had nothing but financial anxiety 24/7. Constant stress and pressure on being able to make ends meet. I would have anxiety from the minute I woke up to the minute I go to bed because I'm constantly thinking, how do I get myself out of this shitty situation? Given how much anxiety I had at the time, I was prepared to do absolutely anything to change my financial situation. I was willing to inhale asbestos and eat concrete for lunch if that's what it took to make $100,000 a year. Fortunately, it didn't take that much, but I had to radically become comfortable with doing things that I wasn't comfortable doing. I got some work boots, I got some certificates, I got some licenses, and I got into the construction industry, and I went from making about $50,000 a year to slowly over $100,000 a year. Did it change my life? Sure, but not in the ways that I anticipated. I thought if I 3 times my income, I'd be drastically better off in this country. A lot of those comments were saying, oh, well, look at your spending, mate, if you can't survive on that. Oh, I can. I am doing very well on $120,000 a year. I am financially secure, but I'm not financially free. I save over 70% of my income. So after I pay for groceries and rent, every other dollar I earn goes into savings. I save more in a week than the average Australian family can save in a month. So I'm a good saver, I'm a good budgeter. But what I wanted to highlight with that initial video was if you're on $120,000 a year, you're not living the high life. You can't walk into Mercedes-Benz and buy an AMG Mercedes. You can't buy an M3 or an M4. So all of these TikTok content creators saying 10K a month, 10K a month, bro, you're not living Porsche 911 lifestyle going to Dubai first class on 10K a month. It's just not happening. You need $30,000 a month. But where does 10K a month actually get you? It gets you freedom. It gets you security. You can go to the grocery store and buy whatever you want without thinking about it. You can apply for a rental and get it and live in it without worrying about what the rent is because it's not that much. You can afford that. And it gave me a certain level of security where I wasn't stressed about money 24/7. And I was able to then use the rest of my brain that wasn't no longer stressed out anymore to think about how to improve my life and my situation. I was deeply unhappy when I was making $50,000 a year. Now that I make $120,000 a year, am I happier? Well, yes. Do I enjoy my job in the way that I spend 60, 70 hours a week of my life? Not really, but I live without stress. I have no worry. Once the work boots are off, my life is pretty good. I don't have to think about, can I afford this? Can I afford to take my girlfriend out for dinner? Yeah, I can. And I now have extra income to invest into other opportunities. I want to upskill myself. I want to continue getting licenses, certifications. I want to get investments. I want to start businesses. And now I'm in a position to be able to do that. If you're not making over $10,000 a month, you just don't have enough skin in the game to even be able to pursue these opportunities that take you to the next level. All these boomers saying it's a budgeting thing, mate, I save more than them. These guys were buying houses in the 90s for like 100 grand. The prices of treats versus houses. In my parents' day and age, houses were cheap and treats were expensive. So going on a holiday and buying a flat screen TV was considered a wildly expensive purchase, whereas you could just simply go without those things and then buy a house. But in this day and age, you can buy a flat screen for $800. You can go to Europe for $1,000. Going to Europe in the 90s would cost you 10 grand. You could use that 10 grand to buy a house. Nowadays, you need 100 grand to buy a house, but you can go to Europe for $1,000. So kids are spending more on treats than they are on houses because houses are so far out of reach for the average person.